A study from 1991 to 2011 shows that abortion rates in the United States, as well as Pennsylvania, have been on a steady decline. However, Pennsylvania has a smaller average number of abortions per year than the rest of the United States. The question is then, why are abortions on a decline? This can be answered by multiple reasons. These reasons are new laws being implemented by the states and government, as well as newer and better contraceptions being released throughout those 20 years. The Supreme Court decision of Roe v. Wade in 1973 was the first time the Supreme Court gave an option on abortions in the United States.
Roe v. Wade was the case in which the Supreme Court said that states cannot ban abortions, and that a lot of the restrictions states might have wanted to place on the practice, at least in the first 6 months of pregnancy, are going to be constitutionally questionable.
Not allowing states to outright ban abortion left some states upset.
Since restrictive states could not outright ban abortions they wanted to, they were forced to comply with the Supreme Court and allow abortions to be legal, at least for the first trimester of pregnancy.
And so the court was not letting states completely ban abortion. It was giving states a certain amount of discretion in terms of what kind of restrictions you can put on.
Some states did all they could to restrict abortions under the new ruling. For PA, this was the Pennsylvania Abortion Control Act of 1989. This gave restrictions to women for getting an abortion. These include a minor seeking an abortion must have informed consent of one parent prior to the abortion. Women are provided with the knowledge needed for an abortion 24 hours prior. And a woman can only have an abortion by any means during the first 6 months of the pregnancy, while after that it is only cases that seriously affect the life or health of the mother.
Even though the right to an abortion was still guaranteed, states had a lot of leeway to restrict it. That's probably what accounts for the decline in abortions over the period of time that you're measuring.
With this act being in place in 1989, we can see why the abortion rates in Pennsylvania have been on a decline. Coming up, we'll look into how contraception has made an impact on the decline of abortions in Pennsylvania.
Stay tuned.
Female contraception, such as birth control and the Plan B pill, were introduced in the 1990s, giving women more options when it came to avoiding unwanted pregnancies. With more options of birth control available, abortion rates started to decrease. Think about it like this. If a woman takes contraception, she will most likely not get pregnant, and that results in her not needing to get an abortion for an unwanted child. So with lowering the abortion rates, since there are less women getting pregnant, the same women are less likely to get an abortion. To explain this further, here's Garrett Graybill.
So from the 90s till now, so in that 20 years that you are really looking at, I think that we've had a lot more of a variety of birth control, and we've had maybe better access to it. That would probably be across the country, but in Pennsylvania, it might be something that was maybe introduced and new.
In 1993, the Plan B pill was introduced to women with a doctor's prescription. This allowed more women to use the contraception to avoid pregnancy.
I know in the mid-90s we had the Plan B pill, so a lot of women then had the option to take a birth control pill after intercourse. So if a condom broke, if they, forgot to take their regular birth control and they were kind of worried about a pregnancy, they had a couple of days to make the decision to take birth control.
Although it does not end an already existent pregnancy, Plan B revolutionized some birth control options for women.
And in the later 90s and early 2000s, that pill became available not as a prescription. So when it was a prescription, it was a great introduction into birth control, but it still had some restrictions on it. So when those restrictions were lifted and it was accessible in so many more ways, that was an example of how birth control might have diminished the abortion rate in the country.
Facilities such as pharmacies as well as Planned Parenthoods began giving out Plan B for women to use to avoid pregnancy and unwanted children.
People get really upset at Planned Parenthood that they're like, they say all kinds of terrible things and they protest them, but Planned Parenthood is the #1 contributor to reducing abortions in the country because they offer all kinds of birth control options. So they're offering options before you get to the point where you'd have to make the decision to terminate a pregnancy.
There are local Planned Parenthood locations in Chambersburg, York, and Gettysburg. Garrett Graybill, SUTV News.
For more information on Planned Parenthood, please visit plannedparenthood.org.
The next step is to see if this decline will continue or possibly rise. Since the studies into the 2011 abortion rate in the United States have gone down 14% as of 2016. We can still speculate that the use of better contraception, as well as the creation and enforcement of new laws, have a role to play in that. However, with the new president just recently elected, it will be interesting to see whether or not the statistics will continue the way they are. President-elect Donald Trump will be choosing a new Supreme Court justice to fill the absent seat we have now.
And then within the next few years, we have Supreme Court justices who are aging, and very likely that this next president could be choosing 2 to 3 Supreme Court justices.
We can only guess right now about the future outcome of abortion rates in the United States, as well as in Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us on SUTV Special Edition broadcast on marriage trends and abortion rates. I'm Ian Fitzgerald.
And I'm Haley Luke. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat, and check out SUTVnews.com for more stories.
Have a good night, and go Raiders.